You start to realize everything is fucked in Devilman with about 80 pages to go in the final volume. The Makimura household is under attack, a location of safety and comfort throughout the series. Failed attempts to breach these sacred walls have been made by demonkind in the past, shout out Silene, and which remained completely unperturbed by the initial destructive wave of the worldwide demonic raid, is now being ruthlessly raided by something far worse than demonkind, a mob of humans. This bastion of familial reassurance, and of all that is good in the world, will surely withstand this raid from a mob of measly humans, right? Good will repel the lost and the evil, and everything will be fine, right? Masa's here, and he's protecting Tare and Miki, just like Akira asked. What a bro, we love that boy, we're good. Miki and Tare are not the only members of the Makimura nuclear unit, however. Where are Mr. and Mrs. Makimura, you may ask? Well, let me remind you that they were arrested by the Anti-Demon Corps on suspicion of aiding demonkind, more specifically for harboring Akira, after Ryo went public and started framing Akira. They were taken to the super duper evil human headquarters, that's the official name of the joint I believe, I mean just look at it, it fits, which Akira is currently raiding with his Devilman army. Therefore, he's not here at the Makimura household to protect Miki and Tare, facilitating the need for our boy Masa over here to save the day. During these climactic final pages of Devilman, we are cutting between the attempted raid on the Makimura house and Devilman and his Devilman armies' raid on the Anti-Demon Corps HQ. The first sign of major trouble and fuckery is during Akira's initial infiltration, when we are hit with this page. Boom. No! And the defiled corpse of Mrs. Makimura is just hanging there, naked. And even for a manga like Devilman, which is pretty violent and pretty fucked up, shout out to Turtonator and Sachiko and the little Susumu. Check the last video for some context on that. Sachiko and Susumu, unlike Mrs. Makimura, were kind of one-off characters who came and violently went quickly. And while Mrs. Makimura isn't exactly the most fleshed out character of all time, she was the consistent, comforting, kind and doting mother throughout the series, especially with little Tare. So to see her hung up like that, dead, naked, arm ripped off, covered in a crimson mask, having done nothing wrong, is shocking. Akira's face and its highlighted nature in the art of this page emphasizes this exactly to me, and cements this as the first page in the downward spiral that is Devilman's ending. There's a kineticness to the page layout here and how it directs the eye, especially upon seeing it for the first time, that I don't quite have the expertise to explain, that makes it so abrupt and gripping. This is where shit gets real, and you start realizing there's no total happy ending coming for this story. What did Akira say that one time? In that one panel? My favorite manga panel of all time? Oh no. And from here the dominoes just continue to fall. The human raiders continue to be more and more successful in their invasion of the Makimura household. Tare is sent upstairs, bad decision. Cut back, Akira then discovers Mr. Makimura, moments away from death before he dies. He simply says, Akira, Miki, and Tare, ... worried about his children's safety and likely why Akira isn't back home protecting them. In this moment, a dramatic, sullen realization comes over the audience that perhaps Akira has made a grave mistake in coming here. Akira is enraged by this and finds the human torturers who have committed these atrocities and corners them. They try to appeal to him, thinking him a demon, pleading that they only harmed humans and have done nothing to offend him. Akira, in response to this, in contradiction to his initial mission statement of saving humans from demonkind, smites these devilish humans in hellfire, bellowing, "Go to hell, you damn humans." In this moment, he is the very sight of the Devilman that humans would fear him to be, driven to this despite his best efforts. The raid continues to worsen. Miki is pierced by her shaky-handed knife-wielding assailant. But surely at least she'll be fine, right? It's an Aliash, but she's able to get away. And look, there's Masa. What a trooper he's been throughout this whole situation. Saving her multiple times before and taking out the raiders left and right, surely he'll save her. Double stabbed, oh no. It was the fucking Pippin moment. Never mind, here comes Tare down the stairs. Oh wait, he's missing a fucking head. And here's this prick holding up his severed head to torment Miki with. Eclipse, 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 eclipse. And sure enough, Miki is completely surrounded, and though it gets slightly abstracted, her clothes are ripped off and she looks to be ripped apart. Eclipse, eclipse, eclipse. Akira is then seen running back to the Makimura house. He's cheerful. This doesn't bode well. And sure enough, with the abstractions now removed, there it is. Miki's decapitated head on a spike paraded with the rest of her severed body parts through the air as celebration ensues. Akira goes berserk, eradicating the mob in one outburst of hellfire, and we are left with him cradling Miki's severed head, vowing to fight Ryo, Satan, to the bitter end. His happiness and hope, the best of humanity, all represented by Miki, gone. The last few pages depict that almighty fight, and guess what? It doesn't end too well. We leave Devilman with a monologue of Ryo, realizing his mistakes, only for him to realize his biggest one, that Akira has been torn in two and died before hearing his monologue, too late. He looks sad as God comes to reduce everything to salt. Devilman End. What the fuck? That's all crammed into the last 80 pages or so of Devilman. It's an outstanding end, made everlasting by its visceral impact, proven by its breadth of influence. The imagery of End of Evangelion, the eclipse scene from Berserk. May have already referenced that one, huh? Among many others that I'm sure this little boy isn't aware of. Devilman warns you that bad things are coming with Akira's abrupt and off-putting fourth wall break, a panel I'm rather fond of if you didn't know. But it's not until things slowly start to unravel in those last 80 pages that you understand the power of that panel in retrospect. It's not until the mania ensues that you recall and go, oh fuck. But further praising my favourite manga panel is not the core reason we are here today. No, rather, with those feelings of reading Devilman's ending rekindled, I want to ask the question, what are we to make of all of this? Today I want to walk you through two interpretations of Devilman's ending that I've had over the years, and sort of mirror how my feelings have changed about it over time through the video. What is the point being made thematically about all of this? Let's delve into it.
But he only cared for the youngest one, all that dreadful
My initial interpretation of Devilman's ending was that it was the quintessential bad ending. If we can be endearingly reductive to help me illustrate my point for a second, there are really only a few types of endings to stories. Typically, there's the good or hopeful ending, where the heroes win, succeed in their role, end up together and get a happily ever after, etc. Think any given kids movie or something. Then there's the bittersweet ending, where the bad guys still lose, but some substantial lasting trauma is felt by the main characters forever after, leaving a bittersweet taste in the audience's mouth. Lord of the Rings is the go-to example for this one. These probably make up the bulk of endings to most stories, along with the dreaded ambiguous endings. That is, at least, most modern stories. Tragedies seem to have been very popular in the past, like ancient Egypt with that fella Shakespeare, though my historical understanding is rather limited. I did read that French one though, Romeo and Juliet in high school. The fuck, they both died, bro. It was tragic. Nonetheless, obviously, contemporarily, happy and if not happy, bittersweet endings seem to reign supreme as the go-to endings by creators for stories void of the dreaded bad ending. This is for good reason, I think. A happy ending is good catharsis. Bad guys do bad things and get their comeuppance, and the good guys are rewarded for their goodness. On the surface level of what happens in the story, happy endings work. The characters we root for and resonate with win, therefore the audience is having a better time. From an artistic level, the audience is pleased and entertained. From a capitalistic standpoint, people being fulfilled and satisfied means they are more likely to pay to experience the story again and spend their money that way, or buy merchandise associated with the story, or see a sequel, or pay for the next experience by the brand or specific creators. Money, money, money. Happy endings also work in a straightforward thematic sense too. The actions of the heroes, usually those of integrity and virtue and struggle, are the ones that should be revered and perhaps idolized and later replicated, for a better society and world. The audience may be inspired to live a more virtuous life by taking on the thematic drive behind their favorite characters, if through the machinations of the story they are rewarded and shown to be righteous and just. The three primary motivators for creating: the artistic need to entertain, the capitalistic need for some cash, and the thematic need to impart a moral lesson, all incentivize good endings, if not bittersweet endings. That's why they're so common. Devilman's bad ending is an affront to all of this. And isn't that just the coolest thing ever? Fuck all that noise, everybody dies, the girl dies brutally, the main character dies off screen, the world ends, and not even the villain, who you might even like a little bit, is happy in the end. Fuck you. It's brave, it's uncharacteristic, it's edgy. On that surface level layer, Devilman's bad ending is a downer. Everyone we are rooting for loses, and it just sort of creates this sense of hopelessness and meaningless in the pit of your stomach. It's no fun and not exactly what I would call entertaining or fulfilling artistically. Capitalistically, the bad Devilman ending threatens to make readers angry and decry the series and its creators. Not want to go back to the story, because what's the point now? Now obviously Devilman and Go Nagai went on to be massively successful, but that was in spite of the risk that was taken for Devilman to end this way. That sense of hopelessness and meaningless that the ending leaves you with leads to a thematic black hole also. What are we supposed to take away from these characters that failed and died horribly and didn't save the world? We don't want to replicate that now, do we? But that very thematic black hole is also what led me to my initial interpretation of Devilman's ending. That it's simply a description and a depiction of the cynical truth of the dark side of human nature. Oh my god, that's why the video has descriptive in the title. Descriptively, Devilman is a commentary on humanity's worst instincts, and how even in the face of an existential threat, in literal demons, that humanity should easily be able to join together and rally against, humanity would fail and succumb to mass hysteria and kill itself far more effectively than demons ever could. Fear and paranoia make people do inhumane things. We see it all throughout human history and in the real world today, and the underlying truth of that is something Devilman highlights. It is people driven by fear, not demons, who storm and massacre Miki and her family. They are victims of groupthink and going along with the violent mob. Devilman's message through its nihilistic ending is humanity is terrible and will kill itself. And reveling in that is the power of Devilman's ending. Well, under this interpretation at least. It's a grim reminder of the dark side of human nature that seems to rear its ugly head in times of crisis. Devilman's almost inherent subversive nature always played into this interpretation for me too. He's literally Devilman. There's something not quite traditionally right there. A superhero can't also be a devil, right? Initially it seems like the story is disproving that. Akira is a hero, but after the ending, I don't know. He smites some humans after all. This superhero doesn't save his Lois Lane or his Mary Jane. I guess that Spider-Man fellow didn't exactly save his Gwen either, but that's besides the point. Shut up. And in the end, he didn't save the world. Guess we should have seen that coming from the title, huh? This almost inherent subversive nature to Devilman molds the series well to have an ending like this. A bad ending. It fits. Isn't it very nice how everything neatly fits together under this umbrella of the descriptive interpretation of Devilman's ending? Crazy. All that is to say, I initially interpreted all of this as Devilman holding up a mirror and saying that this is reality. People are terrible, you are terrible, the world is terrible. All as a shocking and harsh subversive reminder in the face of usual stories that have the exact opposite outcomes and the exact opposite messages, with their unrealistic and hope-poisoned happy endings. That was the way I interpreted, respected, and admired Devilman's ending for a long time. How I put it all together. But then, I started to think a little differently.
And held her down. Oh, the wind and the rain. Watched her as she slowly drowned. Oh, the dreadful wind and rain.
I currently interpret Devilman's ending not as this description of reality cynically reveling in humanity's inherent shortcomings and how they would actualize in the event of a global crisis, but rather as a prescriptive foreboding warning about what not to do and the traps to not fall into in moments of crisis. How things unfold in Devilman is a mildly realistic way humanity could react to a worldwide existential threat. We see groupthink, witch hunts, and fear driving people to do terrible things every day. Maybe on smaller scales, but we do see it. So it makes sense that these behaviors would be replicated on larger, more destructive scales if given the opportunity. Like what we see in the events of Devilman's ending. But I don't think simply depicting that is the point of Devilman. The message of Devilman for me is not, humanity is terrible and will kill itself. As I said, now I think it's a cautionary tale of how not to act, and a reminder that we should be better to one another and more aware of our instincts to be lost to fear, groupthink, and mass hysteria, especially in moments of crisis. This, funnily enough, fundamentally makes Devilman just like most other stories, and a little less unique, at least thematically. On the more surface layer, it's still very unique in having a bad ending, where terrible things happen, everybody dies, and the world ends. That empty and meaningless feeling still inflicted, just in service of themes that are a whole lot less cynical. Similar to the way most stories, like Berserk and Evangelion, that depict characters going through terrible things, express their themes of struggle and self-growth. In an old Evangelion video that's terrible and cringe and you should absolutely under no circumstances check out, and one that I should probably private, I said rather reductively, I like doing that, that every story basically came down to a few core messages. Life may suck but keep going, and stronger together. Themes that boil down basically to expressing the virtue of persistence through suffering, and of friendship/companionship. A point I tried to make in that video was that Berserk and Naruto basically have identical themes, to try and bait people into being angry that their super cool deep series Berserk and that shitty kids cartoon for idiots Naruto were basically saying the same thing at the end of the day, just depicting it differently. I used to love riling people up. It was so much fun. I always relished Devilman as the exception to that rule, that it wasn't about those things, and that it threw those sort of universal themes away to kick you in the balls and tell you that you and your humanity sucked. I admired its unique sort of nihilism, but the more I think about it, and how I think about it now, it seems Devilman is just another thematic drop in those buckets. It was silly of me to think that it was simply just being descriptive, showing us what humanity would do in a situation like this, when it was actually being prescriptive, I think, showing us what we ought to do by showing us an awful outcome, warning us against those pitfalls. This prescriptive reading of Devilman's ending to me highlights the need to struggle and persevere even under impossible circumstances. Akira, Devilman himself, may have fallen and failed to save humanity from killing itself and the world from being rejected by God, but those principles he embodied were still those that ought to be followed for a better society and world, and those of his enemies, and those of the fallen humans, are those that must be warned against and rejected. This interpretation gives Devilman's ending's theming a lot more utility, even if it sacrifices its uniqueness. It might end up saying basically the same thing as every other story, but it's still extremely admirable for its rather extreme way in imparting it, with the warning of being left with that feeling of hopelessness and meaninglessness in the pit of your stomach by its bad ending, serving as a trauma-induced dissuader against illogical and immoral behavior in times of crisis. It's also flippin' sick, bro. These are in no way the definitive or the only interpretations of Devilman's ending. I seriously doubt that these are Go Nagai's interpretations of Devilman and its ending either. From the tiny bit I've researched, it seems that he intended Devilman to be this distinctly anti-war story, which is interesting, I guess. And though I am curious about that, and most authors' perceptions of their own works, it's obviously not something I place value in inherently, or hold with much weight. Nor do I think any interpretation is any more valid than another. They simply outline the two different ways I've interpreted Devilman and its ending over the years. There's many more out there, I'm sure, that are just as interesting. If you're lusting after more Devilman talk, you can check out this 3-hour and 40-minute full series review with Elite Ari and I over on the Ordinary Ari channel. That and all other support links are in the description below. Thanks.